It's Bruno at the Seattle Boat Show, and I have run into a couple of soulmates, and that is our folks from Channel Surfing. So say hello, Martin.
Hello.
And over here is Nethkin. Hello. Lazina. You know, I've looked at your channel. You've got so many great videos, so much great experience up and down the coast, and you've talked to so many boaters. You've lived the life. From a perspective of somebody who doesn't know too much about what's going on in the water, I thought it'd be just a great chat just to talk about some of your experiences in the environmental space. So today we're going to talk a little bit about your experience with solar, just one of the areas that we can look to be more environmentally friendly as we're boating. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about the boat that you're running, and then we'll talk about your conversion to solar.
Mm-hmm. So we've got a 27-foot Ranger Tug. We've had it for 3.5 years. It came with a 160-watt solar panel, which was, for a trailer boat, it was sized to basically keep up with the refrigerator. And if you were trailing the boat, it would keep your batteries topped off while you're running down the road and stuff, right? But we're avid boaters, and I do not like a generator on the boat. Not necessarily even from the eco side, just from the friendly boater side. If you're in an anchorage and you're running a generator, everybody knows who you are.
It's annoying,
right?
Yes.
Especially if you run it late at night. So we ended up upgrading to 400 watts of solar, and it was a game changer on the boat. And it keeps the batteries charged most of the time during the boating season. You know, sun's out and stuff here in the Pacific Northwest. I don't need shore power.
So you got rid of your generator completely?
I never had a generator. I just didn't have enough power, and rather than buying the generator, I put upgraded solar on the boat. And like some of the marinas actually charge extra for power, $5 or $7, a day. I'm like, nope, I don't need it.
That's fantastic.
And I just run everything off of the solar, and it, in the night, the batteries take me through the night, and then during the day, the solar puts it right back in.
So when you converted, did you do a whole sort of power plan and decide what you needed for power consumption, and then sized everything accordingly?
Sizing was interesting. So solar, a lot of it depends on the boat, and I tell folks, do the best you can with what you have, right? Boats have a lot of angles, a lot of curves. I'm fortunate enough that most of the Ranger Tug product line has a really nice flat rooftop that you can easily put up to about a little over 400 watts total on most of the boats. What I've actually found is the equation you use is if you take the number of watts of the panel, you divide that by 4, so 100-watt panel, they give you 25. That's about how many amp hours a day you can expect in the Pacific Northwest, which is Canada and Pacific Northwest. And that formula works pretty good on average for year-round. So I use that for sizing. And then I had to figure out how many amp hours a day do we really use, right? For that, I put a battery monitor in the boat. Then I built a spreadsheet with, I turn the lights on. The battery monitor says, oh, you're pulling 20 watts. Okay, those lights cost me 20 watts.
Wonderful.
And I put all that together, and I would just play with the calculator and say, if I was at anchor, I'd probably run the lights for 2 hours. I'd watch a movie for 2 hours on the TV, and just do all the math for me, and then say, okay, I need about 100 amp hours a day.
So you learned all of this yourself? Like, are you just a genius, or was it fairly logical to sort out?
It was logical, yeah. Yeah, I actually have that spreadsheet. I have it configured for all the Ranger Tugs, and it's in one of our YouTube videos. And I'll, if somebody sends me an email, I'll send them the spreadsheet.
Sure, and we can link that in the show notes too. That specific video.
Yeah, but power management is key on a boat, because here and again, it's so easy to go buy that 2,000-watt Honda generator. But my problem is I don't have a place in my boat to really run it. It's 27 foot. If I run it in the cockpit, this carbon monoxide will settle in the boat. I don't want that. That'll kill everybody on board. And that's not
the noise.
Right. Then you have the noise of it. If I put it out on the transom, a passing by wake is going to get salt water and stuff onto it. So it was just one issue after another. And I was like, solar is that silent generator. As soon as the sun comes up in the morning, it starts working. And it works all day. And the other interesting thing is I didn't know much about solar when I started. I didn't know anything of it. So the first thing I did was, since the boat came with a 160-watt panel, I swapped out the solar controller for a Victron that gave me better instrumentation. Because I was like, how much is this thing working, right? Does the sun, because you get outside and you'll have cloudy, overcast skies, but oftentimes we've all reached for sunglasses on an overcast day, right? It's not the clear blue sky days that really matter, right? If you're getting sunglasses on an overcast day, those are great solar days, right? So what I've found is even in the cloudy days, we still get what we need out of solar. The only, if it's pouring down rain I usually see like a 75% reduction, but I'll still get 40 or 50 amp hours a day at a 400 watts in a pouring down rain, right? And that's half of what I use a day. So my battery bank just steps down, but it still gets me until the sun comes out in 2 or 3 days, and then it puts it back in again.
Now, are you generating any power off your motor?
I get a little bit off the engine. I have an outboard. It's a Yamaha 300. It's got a 70 amp alternator that actually puts out realistically about 50. And the way my charging system is set up on the boat, since I converted to lithium, I only get 30 amps of engine charging. And the boat uses some of that, so really it's about 15 amps of engine charging is all I get. So 80% of all the power we use on channel surfing comes from our 400 watts of solar.
I hope you're enjoying this episode of the Green Boater TV. I would very much appreciate if you could hit the subscribe button, the like button. It helps us keep the channel going. Now, back to the episode.
Just change one thing.
So you mentioned lithium. That was another area that you looked at really hard, and you converted to lithium batteries. Talk about that.
So I have I went through 2 sets of batteries on my boat in the first year and a half I had it, where I just totally sulfated the AGM batteries. And after the second go around, I was like, I either got to really learn to live with a lot less on the boat, and I didn't like that option, or I had to figure out how to get a lot more out of my house battery bank. And the problem I got is it's a 27-foot boat, right? So it's a 8.5-foot beam, so it's small. I don't have a lot of space, and lead acid and AGM batteries are heavy. And the boat came with 2 Group 31 batteries. It was 220 amp hours total. And with AGM, you can only use about half of that, right? Lithium, you can use about 85-90% of what's there. So I ended up converting the boat, and it was a big deal. It's the most expensive upgrade I've done to the boat. I spent 5-6 days on the boat rewiring. I mean, from the cabin door back, I rewired everything, and I had to come up with electrical design and all that stuff for it, because you can't mix lithium with AGM. And I have 3 battery banks aboard: a thruster, an engine, and a house bank. So the engine and the thruster stay AGM, but the house bank went lithium. So I had to get all the charging and stuff correct. But I'll tell you, that was a game changer too, because with solar, one of the nice things with it is when you mix solar with lithium, that's the panacea on a boat, because lithium has no minimum charge rate. AGM and flooded lead acid really want the amps to put back into the batteries, and then they've got like a 10 or 12 hour absorption phase that takes a long time to get through. And if you're on the boat, you're not going to have 10 or 12 hours in an absorption phase, even with solar on the boat, to get through that with AGM. Lithium's absorption phase is 30 minutes to get through there, and it has no minimum charge rate, so you could feed it a half an amp all day and it wouldn't do nothing negative.
So what capacity are your lithiums?
I've got a single 320 amp hour battery.
Okay.
And it weighs 67 pounds. I left 160 pounds of battery weight on the dock. I almost tripled the amount of battery capacity that I have.
Faster cycling, and you get more of the use of the battery. You said 80%, 85%.
Yeah, and so put in comparison, the boat came with 99 usable amp hours, and I've got 256 usable amp hours now. For less, actually half the weight and the same footprint and size.
Did you have your lithiums when you did your cruise up to Alaska? So how many times did you have to go to shore and boost your batteries in that trip?
We actually hit the dock quite a bit, but it wasn't because I needed to charge. Actually, I'll talk about it a little different. So Lemon Drop, same boat we have. So she's got an R27 outboard. She doesn't have lithium, but we wanted hot water, and the only way we get hot water with an outboard is to run a 2,000 watt inverter, right? To run it's a 750 watt hot water heater. Right, you can't do that on the AGM batteries. So what Lemon Drop did was she bought one of those portable lithium iron phosphate batteries. The ones from Anchor. It's like I want to say it was 1,200 watt hours roughly, and that's about the equivalent of what the house battery bank on the boat is, right? And it's all lithium. So she would charge that on the dock, and then we would go to sea for 3-4 days. And if she wanted hot water, she would take that lithium portable battery bank, plug it into the boat's shore power connection, so the boat thinks we're on shore power, and then she'd run the hot water heater. Nice. All right, and that's a good alternative to a generator too, because if you think about it, a generator is using gas to make electricity. right? But if you're only looking to get a day or 2 or 3 away from the dock, those portable lithium iron phosphate battery banks are game changers.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, there's a whole movement like we have seen on cars with electric powered cars. That movement is starting to come into the boating market. We see that at the Seattle Boat Show here over in Europe. They're just flooding there. So this whole area of not only electric power, but the battery technology, the charging technology, the solar panels are getting more efficient all the time. So that's all good news when it comes to the environment.
Yeah. And I'll tell you on solar panels, you talk about efficiency, right? Not all solar panels are created equal.
Right.
Watts are watts. So if it's a 100-watt panel, it's 100 watts. But if the efficiency of those solar cells is like 10, 11%, versus if they're 24 or 25%, which is on the high end, the difference is size. Yeah. And boats, we don't have a lot of space. So I tell folks, if you're looking at solar on your boat, go up top and measure how much space you can afford to give it, and then go shop and find a panel that'll fit that size. Yeah. In my case on channel surfing, the factory 160-watt panel was a 16% efficient panel. I replaced it with a pair of 200-watt panels. Now, the 200-watt panel was the same width, 3 inches shorter, 40 more watts. That's the difference between 16 and 25% efficient on, and the cells at the high end are about 25% efficient. I haven't seen anything that's really much larger than that.
Yeah. So you mentioned at the beginning that you went through 2 sets of AGMs. How many sets of lithiums have you been through?
I am happy to report that I have 2 years now on this lithium battery without a single electrical problem.
And you're hitting them hard in the summer.
Oh yeah, I've been down to 23% state of charge on it.
Wow. Yeah,
on our Alaska trip, this was actually, we went up to, took our boat to Glacier Bay. We went through Johnstone Strait in Canada, and boy did we misjudge weather, and we got punished for that.
Yep.
I had so much seawater coming over the boat. I got 3 dogs on board, and the dog hair had collected in the starboard scupper and clogged it. So all the seawater coming over, landing in the cockpit, it overflowed the scuppers, ran down, and shorted out my solar controller. So that left me in Fury Cove in British Columbia. There's all there is satellite connection up there. So there's no cellular whatever. And we ended up spent 2 days in Fury Cove. Gorgeous weather, blue skies, everything, 0 solar. But when I sized my battery bank, I sized it for at least 2 days in complete darkness. Right, and if I conserve power, I can get 3 or 4 days out of it.
Yeah.
So
nice.
So it was funny because the 3rd day we got up in the morning. So okay, my batteries were down to 25-30%, and then we headed to Shearwater, which was about 50 miles north, and we pulled into Shearwater just to get short power to charge everything back up and plug back in.
Yeah.
And then Prince Rupert, I was able to get another solar controller.
Yeah. Well, listen. There's so many more stories that you have with all the years of boating experience, but I think this has been really valuable. If you were to give advice to somebody who's just starting out in boating, and they're in the same size of a boat that you have, a 27 Ranger, what would you say to them about the process, how they should get started with looking at solar and looking at batteries? How should they get started?
Well, usually batteries is what folks talk about. They say my battery bank's not big enough. How do I add a 3rd or 4th battery? And my comeback to that is, have you done solar yet? And the answer is almost always no. Yeah. And I'm like, look at solar first, because think of solar as an extra battery or 2. Yeah. And then the conversation almost always turns towards, but I need a place to put my paddleboard or my kayak. And then I say, go up top on your roof, put your toys there, measure what space you got left, and do the best you can. Because if you can get from 160 watt to a 200 watt or a 220 watt, the bigger you go, the better off you're going to be.
Yeah. So start with solar and then go to battery.
Yeah. Don't upgrade your battery bank if you haven't done solar yet.
Yeah. And I don't know if we mentioned, but what do you mind mentioning the brand of panel, controller, and battery you chose?
Yeah, so for the solar controllers, I would recommend an MPPT style. It's multi-point, something's what it stands for. That's an important distinction on the solar. There's old style, inexpensive PWM controllers. Don't do those. Those are geared more towards smaller panels, and if you're upgrading solar, you're going to go big, right? So you want an MPPT controller. Victron is what I've used, what I recommend. The stuff just works. It gives you great instrumentation, Bluetooth connectivity to your phone, so you'll know how many watt hours every day you got with a Victron, which for me has been helpful because I look outside, I know what the weather is, and then I record the watt hours, so I get a good feel for when I wake up in the morning. I look at the weather, and I know I can estimate what we're going to get for the day, just because of historicals. For the solar panels, I really like Custom Marine Products panels. A funny story in that is the sticker on my boat said I had a Kyocera 145 watt panel, so that's what I thought I had. They stopped making panels for recreational, so you couldn't get them anymore, so I went shopping for panels. I looked at tons, and I found Custom Marine Products. I liked their selection. They're marine rated, which means that all the electronics are all waterproof. Effectively, that's kind of important in our environment and stuff. So I ended up putting that on, and when I pulled the panel off my boat to replace it, it was actually a Custom Marine Products. The factory had switched to Custom Marine Products, and I had no idea. But they're good quality panels. They're not the cheapest. They're not the most expensive. But what I liked was they used the SunPower Maxion cells, which is a high grade. So the efficiency is like 23-24%, which means I get more watts in a smaller footprint.
And batteries?
For batteries, I went with Lithionics. Battleborn would have been good. Dakota would have been good too. I did Lithionics instead, and the battery setup I have is good. That's a really good video, and I recommend everybody should probably look at what it took to convert to lithium. The key thing with lithium is if you'll hear the term, these are drop-in. There is no such thing. Drop-in lithium means the BMS, which is a safety switch to protect the battery from the environment, is internal. That's all that means. You cannot pull an AGM battery out and drop in a lithium battery in its place. You have to redo your charging system because you cannot join a lithium battery with an AGM on a parallel switch or a charger or whatever. The charging profiles are like almost opposites. They're totally different between the two.
So what's your next big project when it comes to efficiency, environmental stuff on your boat?
I'm actually looking at the prop to get better fuel mileage. I'm working with PowerTech on that right now. So on our Alaska trip, one of the challenges was the distance between some of the fuel stops is a bit further. So for me to get better range, then I just slow the boat down, right? But there was a couple of days we had to do 7 knots just to extend the range. And I'm like, if I get better fuel efficiency, I'm looking at a 4-blade and a 5-blade prop to increase the fuel efficiency of it.
So Martin, thank you very much. Before we go, where can people learn more about your journey, all the videos you've taken, the experiences you've had on the West Coast, and about Ranger? Where can people find this information? 2 places, obviously on YouTube. So you can just put in the search bar, Let's Go Channel Surfing. That's our YouTube channel. And the other one is you can go to our webpage, letsgochannelsurfing.com. Wonderful. Okay. It's Bruno at the Seattle Boat Show. And we are signing off. Thank you so much for joining us with this discussion. I hope that you found something valuable today that will help you do that one thing that moves you towards creating a cleaner environment as a boater. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching this episode of The Green Boater TV. We are looking for 1 million boaters that are willing to change one thing and how they do their boating to help stop ocean pollution. Perhaps this video contained it. Subscribe to this channel for other ideas about how you can create the ocean you love.